Every day we're hit with another story. Artificial intelligence, layoffs, wars, and geopolitical tension, cryptocurrency, government debt, social media, automation, political division, the rise of massive technology companies. Everybody discusses these things separately, but what happens when you connect the dots? What if these aren't completely separate stories? What if we're watching several parts of one enormous transformation happening at the same time? That's what we're talking about tonight. People keep watching the headlines one at a time. Artificial intelligence is one story. The economy is another story. War is another story. Crypto is another story. Social media is another story. But I don't think you can understand what's happening right now by looking at these things separately. You have to step back. Because when you start connecting the dots, you might realize we're living through one of the biggest shifts in power, technology, money, and culture that we've seen in generations. So tonight, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're connecting the dots. Now, AI isn't simply another piece of software. We're talking about technology increasingly capable of performing tasks that previously required human intelligence. Things such as writing, research, coding, analysis, customer service, design, video, logistics, and that's only the beginning. So here's my question. What happens when intelligence itself becomes cheap and widely available? Because throughout history, technology usually replaced some form of physical labor. Machines replaced muscle. Computers accelerated calculation. The internet accelerated communication. But AI is different. Artificial intelligence is coming after cognitive labor. And that takes us directly to the second point of connection. Jobs, money, and the economy. Everybody keeps asking, is artificial intelligence going to take our jobs? I think that's actually the wrong question. The better question is, which jobs change first and who owns the technology doing that work? Because imagine a company that previously needed 100 people to perform certain tasks. What happens if AI allows 20 people to produce the same output? That's fantastic productivity, but now we've got another question. What happens to the other 80 people? And more importantly, where does the money created by that productivity go? Does it go to workers, consumers, shareholders, governments, or primarily to the companies that control the technology? Now, we're not just asking about artificial intelligence, we're talking about power. And that brings us to dot number 3 to connect. The new global power race. Countries once competed primarily over land, oil, shipping routes, and military strength. Those things still matter, but now there's another battlefield. Yeah, technology, artificial intelligence, semiconductors, data, energy, cybersecurity, advanced manufacturing, space. Whoever leads in those areas may have an enormous economic and strategic advantage. So when you hear stories about chips, artificial intelligence companies, trade restrictions, energy infrastructure, China, the United States, Russia, Taiwan, don't automatically treat those as isolated headlines. Ask yourself this question. What's the strategic connection? Because the next global superpower Competition may not simply be about who has the biggest army. It could also be about who has the best technology. Now, connecting dot number 4. Who controls information? Yeah, now things get really interesting because power isn't only about governments anymore. Think about how much influence technology platforms have over everyday life. Where do millions of people get their news? Where do political arguments happen? Where are cultural movements born? Where do businesses advertise? Where do creators build audiences? Where do people increasingly ask questions? Online, which means something extraordinary has happened. Private technology platforms have become part of the infrastructure through which society communicates. And now AI gets added to that system. That raises a huge question. Who controls the information that shapes what people believe? Is it governments, media companies, technology companies, algorithms, creators, or some combination of all of them? Now, connecting dot number 5. The creator becomes a media company. And here's the dot that directly affects people like us. For most of modern history, if you wanted a large audience, somebody had to give you permission, such as a television network, a newspaper, a radio station, a publisher, a record label. Today, you can pick up a phone, hit record, and potentially speak to millions of people. Yeah, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, Spotify, podcasts, independent media. The gatekeepers haven't disappeared, but the gates are a whole lot wider. That means ordinary people have access to something previous generations rarely had: distribution. And distribution equals influence. Yeah. Connecting dot number 6. Now, so what does all of this mean for you? This is where I want to bring everything back home, because it's easy to hear all of this and think, okay, Snakz, that's interesting, but what am I supposed to do about it? All right, here's my answer. Pay attention. Learn the new tools. Understand artificial intelligence. Understand money. Build skills. Build something you own. Build an audience if you can. Don't depend entirely upon one company, one platform, or one income stream. Because if we're really entering a period of major technological and economic change, the people who recognize that change early have one enormous advantage: time. Time to learn, time to adapt, time to position themselves. Now, the big connection. All right? Now, as I connect everything, AI changes productivity. Productivity changes employment. Employment changes economics. Economics affects politics. Technology changes military and geopolitical power. Platforms change information. Information changes culture. And creators suddenly have the ability to participate in that information ecosystem themselves. Those aren't 6 separate stories. They're connected. And maybe the biggest mistake we can make right now is staring at every individual headline without ever stepping far enough back to see the picture they're creating. Yeah. So I'm going to leave you with one question. When historians look back at this period 20 or 30 years from now, what are they going to say was actually happening while the rest of us were busy arguing about the headlines? Because history doesn't usually announce itself. Most people don't realize they're living through a turning point until the turning point has already happened. That's why every once in a while, You got to stop watching the individual stories. Step back, look at the whole board, and start connecting the dots. This is Snakz Thoughts, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.